G'day folks. So I thought I'd make a longer video of my ponds because someone was interested. So let me tell you a little bit about them. So this first pond, I've had this for years. It's made from an old tractor tyre and it's just got a little pump in there that makes the water come out through that little tube, as you can see. It used to be a little bit fuller, but there must be a little leak towards the top somewhere, so it just drops down to that level, which is probably about 15 centimetres. But it gets tadpoles every year and the frogs love it. You've got to keep most of the surface protected from the sun. That's why I've got those bits there. And if you have water plants, that takes care of the algae. That water is pretty good. It's pretty clean and self-sustaining. So there's no real filters on that water. I've got a little tiny aerator that it's got a couple of spots where the air comes up. It's hard to see probably, but there's a little bit of algae growing down there, that string algae. But it's not a real problem. The tadpoles like to eat it. They eat a lot of the rotting vegetation stuff, so yeah, they do well. They come in most of the years. Here's the way to get out so they don't get stuck in there, or they just climb up that plant. So I've got a little solar panel to run the aerator and another solar panel here that runs that water flow through that rock. Earlier this year I dug out a hole and bought a second-hand bathtub and built this. So I dug it out, leveled it out, put the liner in, and this time I've got a pump on it that runs on power, and this big contraption on the end is called a bog filter. That's made out of an old olive container, and basically it's just big rocks that are sitting on a slight platform, so there's a little gap down the bottom, and that's a runoff for dirty stuff. You can open up a tap and drain out the dirty crap once a year if you like. There shouldn't be that much anyway. So yeah, from big rocks to the littler rocks all the way up till you get to gravel. Pump from down there, pumps the water up and in, and the pipe goes all the way to the bottom, and it fills from the bottom, fills upwards. And it fills up, hits the tube in there and just flows out, right? And I just put that there just to give it a bit of a waterfall effect. This is just an old fly screen just to keep as much crap out from falling in the top as possible. You can grow little plants now. I've had different ones grow in there, but it doesn't really matter. You can decorate it any way you like, bits of ceramic pot on the top or whatever you want. It's been changed a few times since I've started. At the moment I have got some frog spawn, so the tadpoles should grow in there, so that's going to be fantastic. They just eat the rotting vegetable matter. As you can see, the water's really clear. There's no algae really growing in there, just a little bit of surface algae, but that's not a problem. That plant, I thought it was dying, and it did to a degree, but it's also got new growth as well, so I'm not too fussed. I'll just leave that there for protection, because I've seen frogs swimming around the plants. It's good. I like the sound of it. Do you like my little trick there? Looks like water's flowing out of that pump. I like how bees and wasps come down, they get a drink. Lots of things use it. It's great. Oh, it's nice and cool too. It's good. If you're wondering what these holes are, there's one set of 3 on each side. Wonder if you can guess what they are. I'll give you a moment to think about it. Alright, that's long enough. Basically, there was a handle so I could carry the container. Not with all the rocks in it, because it was a bit awkward. This leaked the other week, so I put this ramp here so any water would go back into the pond, and then I drained it out and I put more silicone on it. Now it's right. I thought I'd better leave this here anyway. It's not harming it being there. I might take this one out at some stage and either reline it and use the same tyre, or I might go and get a second-hand spa bath, which will be a bit bigger. It's got levels in it, and so I might do that at some stage, and I'll do a progress video on that. So talking about bog filters, this one here, which this one runs on a solar panel that I've got secured up there. And this was the first one I made as a tester. There's a little pump that pumps water up through the top and down, right down to the bottom. Again, it fills them up from the top, and this little, you can see there, the water goes down, then flows down the tube and out there. You can do it, you can have the tube high or low, it doesn't really matter on that outlet. And that's the dirty water tap there. I opened it the other day just to see how much crap will come out. It was only a little tiny bit, so once a year you can open that valve and just release it out. You can see this little plant screen on the top helps keep it all clean. It's brilliant. And the next bog filter was made for this pond. Now this pond was a bath that was a failed pond attempt some years ago. I just had endless amounts of trouble because I didn't know anything about bog filters. So I actually filled it all in and covered it with garden. And then when I learned about bog filters and that, I thought, oh, I might try it again. So I dug it all out, cleaned it out. I've got a old recycle box, that's what the grey box is, and turned that into a bog filter through the different stages that I learned. Put it all together and then got it going. And this one's got a little aerator that runs on a solar panel from over there. And that's what that little cylindrical thing sticking up in the filter box is. That's just the motor that runs the aerator that's in there. And the fish love to go under that little waterfall there, or to the water, and they must like get a massage or something out of it. So this one is under shade cloth, but it still gets warm in that, so that glass on the tank gets a little bit of algae, and in the hotter months, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, I have a little system of cleaning it, or I actually have to siphon the water out of that tank. I put it in buckets, clean it out, put it back. Probably takes an hour to do. And in the colder months, it lasts a lot longer. But the fish love it. They go in there all the time. That tank is sitting on a couple of those Besser blocks or cinder blocks, whatever you call them. And why I chose those is because the fish can go in and out from the side, obviously there, but the ends as well. They can just swim through the cinder block. So I've got 2 bigger fish and 4 little ones in there. And I don't like to have frog spawn starting in there. There was some this morning, and I scooped it out using a bucket, and I put it in the other one. And the reason I did that was because A, the fish will probably eat the little babies, and secondly because when tadpoles turn into the frogs, and the frog might swim up into that aquarium, inverted aquarium. If you haven't got enough air up there, I mean, you can decide how much you want in there, but the frogs can go up there and actually they don't know how to get back out. They're too dumb to swim back down and under, so they get caught up in there and they drown. I had an inverted glass jar in that tyre pond, and the tadpoles are fine. They would go in there and they swim back out. They were really good. And then one day I found a dead frog in there. So he'd gone up there and couldn't get out and didn't have enough air up there and drowned. So I took that out. I took that jar out of that pond and didn't do that anymore. So in this one, I just keep an eye on it. And my new pond at the side there didn't have any tadpoles in it yet, so I decided to just relocate that frog spawn from there into the other one. These bog filters work fantastic, and there's plenty of tutorials on YouTube on how to make them. That's how I learned how to do them. So it's basically a box or some sort of container. You start with bigger rocks on the bottom and go smaller and smaller to gravel at the top. Those ones at the very top, they're just decorative. But the bottom layer of rocks is just sitting off the bottom with some sort of platform. You can have a milk crate or something, because any crap water goes right down the bottom. And once a year, you can release the valve for the crap water. So, for example, I just open that and it just runs into the garden, any rubbish water that might accumulate. And it's the bacteria that keep all the algae at bay. and keeps the water nice and clear. You can see you get some of this stuff occasionally, which, look, it's not that bad. You can use algicide for some of this stuff, and it works all right. I'll probably try to avoid using it, but it doesn't really harm the fish if you do it properly by the instructions. See, algae loves the heat and the sunlight, so if you can cover the surface area, you know, maybe about 50% if possible, put some plants in it, and fish, they'll eat some of the algae as well. That'll keep it at bay. Last resort is using some sort of algicide. The size of the bog filters is dependent on how big your pond is. I think it was that it should be about 30% of the volume of what the pond is, something like that. There is a range. There's plenty of YouTube videos that'll teach you. I think Oz Ponds was one that I looked at, and that'll help you construct them. As for the pumps, this is only a little pump. You don't want a big strong flow. I've got my pump set up in a ceramic pot and then surrounded by a lot of foam. And then I might have a little rock or something on top just to keep it down. The reason I do that, it's not too bad in this fish pond. They're big enough. But I have noticed pumps, if you just sit a pump you know, straight on the rocks without anything around it, you might get tadpoles sucked up into the pump, and that's, yeah, it's not nice. I've had that happen, and you live and learn. You know, I started covering them with pantyhose and stuff like that, stretched it over. That can work. They get very dirty quickly though. So I noticed that using sponges around in a setup like I've got just seem to have the pump cleaner for a lot longer. Once in a while you take the sponges out, give them a bit of a wash, put it back, and that's it. I want to show you one more thing. This is my bigger bird bath. So that's just a you know, shower bars, remember those? You could shower in a bath. So that's just a little bath, and I've lined it with shade cloth. And I lined it because the actual colour of the bath wasn't to my liking, and you know, I just like the black, looks better. So that's there for the birds to come down and have a bath. Now, what you might notice is that shade cloth is pretty clean. Algae just doesn't seem to grow on it for some reason. I don't know if it's the whatever it's made of, like the plasticky stuff, or the fact that it's got so many holes and stuff in it and the algae can't spread properly. I don't know. But I cleaned it for the first time probably last week. I just removed that log, and that log's there so it doesn't matter what height the water is, the birds can get down to have a drink, or lizards or whatever. I've seen plenty of magpies there, and they're bathing in it and having a good old wash. So the other day when I had to clean it, all I did was just take out the log and that brick, which just stops the mesh from floating. And I just grabbed a handful of the mesh, lifted it up to about there, and just hosed off any crap that was on it and put it down. And that water just seems to stay clean all the time. The maggies dirty it up, or the different birds dirty it up, but that's all right. You can see a tiny bit of algae on the rock, but on the wood, but it's pretty clean. And I just keep an eye on it in this hot weather. I like to top it up for them, and they love it. But I like looking after the local animals and birds. I've got a couple of little bird baths around the yard, because sometimes they fight amongst themselves on who's going to use the bird bath first. So you'll see them take it in turns sometimes. You'll get the big ones come in, have their time, and then the little ones come in. And around, I don't know, 6 o'clock on these warm days, summer days, you can hear a commotion out the back, and it's all these New Holland honey eaters having a bath, and I've seen up to about 20 of them. It really makes you smile. It's good for the heart. Bit of serenity. Don't know if you can hear it, but there's a Pobblebonk frog in the pond, probably in that massive green. If I get too close, he stops. He's quiet at the moment. Oh, there he goes. Let me be quiet for a moment. Did you hear him? Just went, oh. It's what they call a banjo frog, or sometimes called the Pobblebonk frog. That's what we get here. and other ones. I've seen all sorts of ones. I've seen ones with real pad-like feet, and they just have stuck to the glass and hopped along. For those that want to see a longer detailed version of my ponds, there you go. I hope you're satisfied. Gives you a bit more insight in how I made them. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Stay cool in this heat. It's bloody too hot for my liking. Cheers.